What's good, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Smooth Vision channel with another episode of the NFL wrap-up and preview. Already 10 weeks down in the football season, and I believe about 7 left. Still got a little ways to go, but damn, a lot of football has been played, and actually some good games this past weekend. Seahawks beat the 49ers. They upset the 49ers in overtime. They literally needed the entire overtime to finally kick a field goal and win it. The 49ers rookie kicker actually made a field goal to send the game in overtime, but he missed the game-winning field goal in overtime. And when the Seahawks took over the ball, they drove down, they kicked the field goal, they won it. Best game of the week by far. The Bears beat up on the Lions 20-13. That was a lackluster game, but the story out of here is that Matt Stafford did not play because he had a couple of injuries, and Jeff Driscoll took over. And obviously, you can see, even though he was the leading rusher, which was weird, it just wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough for Detroit. And by the way, these two teams play again on Thanksgiving, so hopefully their matchup on Thanksgiving in Detroit is much more entertaining than this one here in Chicago, because the game in Chicago was trash. The Titans upset the Chiefs. Not only did the Titans outplay the Chiefs and outcoach the Chiefs, they even blocked a field goal to seal the win in Titans fashion, quite frankly, down to the wire. And this was Pat Mahomes' first game coming back since that dislocated kneecap injury, and even though he threw for almost 500 yards and threw 3 touchdowns, it was not enough. And all Ryan Tannehill needed was 181 and 2 touchdowns just to beat him. And, of course, let Derrick Henry do the rest. And in a terrible tank bowl in New Jersey, the Jets beat the Giants 34-27. Not much noteworthy here. Both of these teams now have 2 wins on the year. Giants are 2-8, Jets 2-7. They're both trending in the same way, which is down. And honestly, not much noteworthy here. Daniel Jones did throw for 4 touchdowns, which was a nice performance, and he is looking promising, but again, that was against the Jets. If he plays a legit team, then Daniel Jones is going to get his ass whooped. The Buccaneers beat the Cardinals in Tampa Bay 30-27. Jameis Winston throwing 2 picks, being a turnover machine as usual. Kyler Murray trying to rally his team to a win, but once again coming up short, having 3 touchdowns and a pick. Kyler Murray is still having a really good rookie year, despite the fact that the Cardinals can't close out games. They're losing close games. They're playing close and they're playing down to the wire, but just can't close it. Can't close out and win. In the, I would say the skull dragging of the weekend, it was the Ravens just destroying what's left of the Bengals, just beating them down, curb stomping them, torturing them, picking them apart, skinning them alive, and hanging the Bengal hide dry. The Bengals 0-9, as you can imagine. Of course, the rookie Ryan Finley did okay, threw for 167, touchdown and pick. Lamar throwing for 233, 3 touchdowns, of course, running for 65 yards and scoring there as well. Even getting Marquise Brown involved, getting 4 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown. So the Ravens, once again, are rolling, but even at 7-2, the Steelers are creeping up. They're only 2 games back, and even though the Ravens, of course, hold a win over the Steelers, still, it's going to be very close between the Steelers and the Ravens. The Browns have some work to do, even though they get a victory against the Bills, 19-16. It's the Bills, not the most impressive win for the Browns, but it's a victory nonetheless. They improved to 3-6. They're still down 2 games to the Steelers and 4 to the Ravens, even though they beat the Ravens. So the Browns have some groundwork as far as the divisional work goes, and they even have some work cut out for them tonight, which I'm going to get to momentarily. And in the upset, another upset of the weekend, this one's more shocking. The Falcons kicked the Saints in the face 26-9 in New Orleans. I think the story here is that the Saints they were not awake. They just didn't wake up. They didn't show up. They took a day off, essentially, and just let the Falcons beat them up. The Falcons are 2-7, so they're not going to the playoffs or going anywhere important. The Saints, this loss doesn't hurt them. If anything, it'll probably slap them in the face and wake them up after that long win streak of theirs when Breeze was hurt. But if anything, it'll wake them up and hopefully get them into gear to close out the season the right way, because you don't want to take a bad loss like that. That's a loss that's unnecessary for the Saints. They're too good of a team to lose to a team that bad. And I guess you can call this an upset. The Dolphins beat the Colts 16-12. It's weird because the Dolphins should be losing. They should be tanking games in order to get a top draft pick, yet they have won 2 more games than the Bengals, who haven't won a game all year. And the Redskins have a win, and the Jets and Giants are now like at 2 wins, but not good if you want to get the number 1 overall pick. They're going to get a top pick after a win like this, but still. Not good. And even though Fitzpatrick threw for 169 and a pick, Hoyer threw for 204, a touchdown, and 3 picks. 3 interceptions to 1. If he was going up against Jacoby Brissett, probably would have been a different game. Probably would have been a win for the Colts. But when you're going up against Brian Hoyer, you're pretty much guaranteed a win. And in Green Bay, the Packers roll on 24-16. Kyle Allen threw for 370 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. He played a little bit better than Aaron Rodgers, technically, as far as passing goes, but the Packers with their defense and even through the air, well, even on the ground, actually, they mainly got it done in this one because there was a lot of snow in this game, especially in the fourth quarter. The field was damn near covered with it. So the run game really came in for the Packers and closed it out the way they needed to against a surging Panthers team who, I mean, let's be honest, they're preparing for life after Cam Newton with Kyle Allen right now, and so far, things are good. He's still a rookie, so the losses don't matter as much, but it's clear Cam Newton has played his final games in Carolina. The Steelers take one from the Rams 17-12, and it's weird because the Rams once looked like a promising team, Super Bowl contender, now not looking so good. Todd Gurley only ran for 73 yards. There's still concerns about him. Jared Goff played absolutely terrible, throwing 2 interceptions. Let Mason Rudolph outplay him, despite only throwing 1 yard less than Jared Goff. Still, the Steelers putting together a win streak, silently creeping up behind the Ravens for first place in the AFC North. Still plenty of season left. Still a solid 7 weeks left. Steelers, though, surprisingly surging back at 5-4. They look like they were done, just like the Browns were, but putting some wins together and even trading for Minkah Fitzpatrick, who I believe has had an interception in every game he's played in since that trade. It's been paying off for the Steelers. We'll see what happens in the next week and in the coming weeks, but Steelers looking good. And in the Sunday night game, Vikings beat up the Cowboys at home 28-24. The Cowboys falling short despite Dak Prescott throwing for 3 touchdowns and a pick. Elliott only ran for 40 yards after carrying the ball 20 times. And Dalvin Cook had a way better game than him, but even though they feed Zeke, it's like he's not producing the way he needs to produce. It's very odd. This Cowboys team is up and down. They've looked like a scary team some weeks, and other weeks, like when they played the Jets, they just look like a fucking pushover. So at 5-4, they're still trying to figure out how they can have a steady win streak. And as for the Vikings, they are 7-3. Kirk Cousins throwing for 2 touchdowns and 220 yards. And, of course, getting Dalvin Cook involved by Dalvin Cook running for 97 yards and a touchdown. So that Vikings offense is finally starting to complement the defense. And it seems like they're going to put it together for a good run in the postseason. We'll see how the Vikings continue to progress, though. And then, of course, Thursday night game was the Raiders beating the Chargers. Chargers being the Chargers. Phillip Rivers throwing 3 picks despite 2 touchdowns. Melvin Gordon hitting the end zone once, but Derek Carr outplayed Phillip Rivers in the end, and Phillip Rivers threw 3 touchdowns, including 2 pick sixes to the same defensive back. So that goes to tell you where Phillip Rivers is. Too bad, because Phillip Rivers had potential to be a Hall of Famer, and he's just coming up short, and not all of it's his fault. But anyways, folks, that was week number 10, and now we are here to preview week 11 tonight. The Steelers and Browns are going to go at it. This will be a close game. Both of these teams need a win, though. The Browns need a win to get their streak going to chase the postseason, because 3-6 is not where you want to be 9 weeks into the season. The Steelers are 5-4. They're trying to catch up to the Ravens 2 games back. A win here puts them in prime position to at least lock down a wild card in the AFC. And then moving on to Sunday, you have the Panthers and Falcons. The Panthers will wake up and get a victory after getting embarrassed by the Packers. And even though the Falcons are going to be riding high, it's the Falcons. They are still a bad team. They just played a Saints team that didn't wake up, so I would expect the Panthers to win here. A terrible game. A terrible tank bowl of a game. The Jets and Redskins. I want to go for the Redskins because I would love to see them get a second win, but the only thing that's, I'd say, downfall is that if they win, they don't get a top draft pick. Like, the Bengals are in the lead for number 1 pick at 0-9. The Redskins are sitting at number 2 with only 1 win on the season. If they win here, that draft pick is gone. They might as well just try to lay down. The Jets are going to try to lay down too, but Redskins better lay down. The Redskins will win the Tank Bowl, but winning a Tank Bowl means you have to lose. So go ahead and pick the Jets. Texans and Ravens. This is actually going to be one of the better games of the whole weekend. I would say flip a coin because you have Lamar Jackson going up against Deshaun Watson, 2 of the best quarterbacks in the league right now. Both guys are top candidates for MVP, and this game right here is going to see who league MVP really is. Like, it's going to kind of push the other person and elevate them to being the leader in the MVP voting. Now, 6-3, 7-2. Both teams have a lot to prove. Both teams still want to win. They still want home field advantage. They want prime playoff position. They want a first round bye in the playoffs, which always helps. So, you flip a coin here. Either team will be good because that's going to be a very close game. Hopefully as competitive as the 49ers and Seahawks was just this past Monday night. And then the Broncos and Vikings. Oh, and this is in Minnesota too. Expect Minnesota to just skull drag the Broncos. The Broncos have a rookie quarterback with Joe Flacco out for the year, and that whole team itself is going to fall apart and collapse. Don't expect much from the Broncos there. If we're being honest, don't expect much. 7-3 versus 3-6. Yeah, Vikings are going to light it up at home. You can count on that. Also, 1 o'clock, Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the Saints. This is in Tampa Bay. The Saints are probably going to Tampa very angry after getting kicked in the face at home by the Falcons. Go with the Saints here for revenge, but don't be surprised if the Buccaneers happen to have, one of their little breakout games. It's weird because I'm going to go ahead and pick the Saints because that's an obvious one, but after looking pretty bad last week, they better wake up. If they don't wake up, they're going to be in serious trouble. Cowboys and Lions. Oh, this should be a gimme for the Cowboys. If the Cowboys can't be the Lions at this stage, then they really need to evaluate their team before the playoffs begin. Because if you can't win at this stage against a team like the Lions, then you have some serious team identity issues. I'm looking for the Cowboys to bounce back here, but keep your eye out on that one. That might be an upset special. Jaguars, Colts. Jaguars are trash, and the Colts are probably looking for revenge after getting embarrassed by one of the worst teams in the league. I'm going to go ahead with the Colts because Gardner Minshew is all hype. He hasn't lived up to any of it, and the rest of the Jaguars team has underachieved along with him. So I would say go for the less underachieving team, the Colts. They had a bad week last week, but I think they bounced back. Dolphins and Bills. The Bills will be the obvious play here, but the Dolphins are undefeated in the month of November. Yes, you heard that right. They have won 2 straight games in November. They are undefeated this month, 2-0, even though the record is 2-7. Saying that they continue to streak is probably going to be a stretch. That's a team that wants to lose and wants top draft pick position for the next draft, so I would say go ahead and pick the Bills for this one because I think Miami's going to go back to the tanking team that they were supposed to be before their 2-game win streak. And then going into the 4 o'clock games, you have the Cardinals, 49ers. The 49ers are going to look for revenge against the Cardinals, but Kyler Murray he's had an alright rookie year, man. He's thrown 12 touchdowns, only 5 picks. He's thrown over 2,000 yards. He's ran for over 300 and has 2 touchdowns. No Lamar Jackson, but still pretty good for Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray's been slinging the ball out there. Garoppolo, on the other hand, we need to figure out who he is because this is the season that's going to determine it. He had a close game last week against the Seahawks where it came down to the wire, and it wasn't even his fault. His kicker missed the game-winning kick. His kicker missed it. His kicker missed that game. Well, lost that game. So I would say look for the 49ers to get revenge here. And in Oakland, the Raiders are beating up on the 0-9 Bengals, and yeah, I said they're going to beat up on them. Essentially, the Raiders are going to get a win here. The Bengals need to find their quarterback of the future. Ryan Finley looked okay, but is he the answer long term? No. Andy Dalton certainly isn't going to be it. By the end of the season, expect Andy Dalton to be cut from the Bengals. They're going to get rid of him. And I expect the Raiders to have a nice, inspired win here at home. And look at that, their favorite -11. Hell yeah, take the Raiders in that one. Easily. Patriots-Eagles at 4:30. That'll be a fun one right there. Patriots 8-1 going up against a 5-4 up-and-down Eagles team. I'm going Tom Brady because the Eagles are too up and down for my taste at 5-4. Go with the 8-1 team. Let's see, and then Sunday at 8:30 is going to be, well, 8:20 technically, is going to be the Rams and the Bears in LA. Ooh, 4-5 versus 5-4, a couple of teams that are average at best. I mean, Mitchell Trubisky is terrible, and Jared Goff is terrible. If I had to compare the two, I'm going to go with the team with the better defense, and that's the Bears. Even though the Rams are kind of favored, I'm going to take the Bears on this one because I don't like Jared Goff. I don't like Mitchell Trubisky either. Trubisky's not the answer. I don't believe Goff's the answer in LA, but if you have to, I guess, pick a team here, it's going to come down to defense. I think they can stop Todd Gurley. He hasn't even hit 500 yards yet this season, Todd Gurley. It says a lot. And then 8:30 Monday night, Chiefs and Chargers. I expect the Chiefs to come out and punch the Chargers in the mouth and just be relentless about it. The Chiefs are 6-4. That was a team that I thought would be undefeated for a lot longer. Instead, the 49ers had a longer undefeated streak than they did. But yeah, I expect the Chiefs to get revenge in this one. And the Chargers, they've already collapsed. And I think Anthony Lynn, the head coach, is going to be fired at the end of the year. My personal opinion. Anyways, folks, that will be it. Week 10 wrapped up in the books. Week 11 starting tonight. Everybody make sure you enjoy the games this weekend. I will be back next week to wrap up week number 11 and, of course, preview week number 12. Enjoy all the games, ladies and gentlemen. Let the violence begin, let the fun begin, and let the games begin. See you all next time. I'm out.